welcome to this special broadcast brought to you by the Government Communications and Information System. Time is now 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. Welcome. My name is Mosotho Stone, and as usual, we thank Karabolans who was with you last week. And this is Let's Talk Justice, and as we mentioned from the word go on our first episode, Let's Talk Justice is back due to the overwhelming popular demand and success of our first season, which rolled out from July 2015 up until January this year. And remember, we also had 3 extra programs that were giving you enough information on various issues and various aspects of our constitution and how to apply it on our daily basis. My name is Mosotho Stone, like I said, and you are welcome to interact with us and interact with our guests, and that can be happening on Facebook, where you can get the Facebook page, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Otherwise, you are able to get us at DOJCD, that is on Twitter, at DOJCD_ZA. That is on Twitter. And then on Instagram, you are able to get us at DOJCD. Otherwise, if you prefer talking to us directly, you can call us. It's a toll-free number. It's 0800 142 446. 0800 142 446. Now, as we had the clip that was playing just before this, tonight we are talking maintenance. We are talking about taking care of the kids, and maintenance is not only about the money, but it's also about a lot of things, which include school, which include health, which includes clothing, all those kind of things. We will be talking in the interest of making sure that the kids are well taken care of. We have had these programs before. This is basically the 4th episode that will be engaging child maintenance. So what I would ask from our dear listeners is that rather than complain a lot, let's try to find solutions for each other. Why do you think that man is actually not trying his utmost best to make sure that the kids are well taken care of? And if you're a lady, why are you not actually following the right procedures to make sure that you collect your maintenance, you make sure that there is proper receipts, there's proper slips? Let's talk about those things, because right now action is the best solution that we can actually look up to. Without any further ado, at 10 minutes past 6 o'clock, Adv Daniel Thulare in the studio tonight. And Advocate Daniel Thulare is the Chief Magistrate in the Cape Town Court. Adv Thulare, welcome, and thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, and good evening to South Africans.
All right. Maybe before I go on, we are also going to be joined by Ms. Ntombi Vungai, who is the Assistant Director in Child Maintenance with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. She's running a bit, she's a bit delayed in traffic, but she will be joining us quite later on to tell us more about it. Without any further ado, let's get into this. Adv Thulare, before maybe, let's just go back. As the man was saying, if you are related, you might be liable for your parents' maintenance at some point. Tell us a bit about maintenance in an abstract way.
Yeah, perhaps the best illustration is to ask fellow South Africans perhaps to make a simple drawing,
yes,
of a house that you'd expect, let's say, a grade 2 people to build.
Uh-huh.
You have the rectangle at the bottom, and at this roof you have a triangle.
Yes.
All right. So at the foundation phase, that's where the basis for liability for maintenance starts.
Yes.
So there you have a blood relation.
Mm-hmm.
So how tlhobana le motho ka madi as a point of departure, o rwala maikarabelo a motho o mo maintainer, le ena o rwala maikarabelo a o maintain.
That's right.
So the duty of a parent to maintain its child, it's because of that blood relation.
That's right.
When circumstances change, the duty of the child to maintain its parent it's also based on that blood relation. So blood relation is one of the foundations.
That's right.
The other foundation is found in marriage. When you marry a person, legally speaking, if I may do an analogy for you, what you are doing is there is that bond of a blood relation between that person and its parents for maintenance.
That's right.
So when you say to the priest or to the marriage officer, I do, what you are actually saying legally is you are cutting the cord that links you to your parent to maintain, and you're linking that cord to your spouse.
That's right.
So now when you look up for maintenance, you no longer look at your parents because of the blood relation that I spoke to. You now look to your spouse because of the marriage.
Yes.
And then the other foundation can result as a result of certain court orders. If a court, most generally it would be the children's court, where you adopt a child, and remember that child is not born of you. It's born of its natural parents.
Not of blood relation.
So there is no blood relation.
Yes.
But when you adopt that child, then what happens is you bring into being the relationship for maintenance, that foundation.
That's right.
All right. So certain types of court orders can create that foundation, even if it doesn't exist by blood or by marriage.
That's right.
And then the other one is what we call customary practices. All right. So if for instance, after, like it happened in one of the cases, after the death of, let's say you're married, and your spouse's sister passes on,
Yes.
and after the burial at the family conference, like indigenous people do,
Yes.
at the family conference you say, no, I will take this child as mine. Remember, that child is not born of you or of your wife.
That's right.
But you make a commitment at the family conference to say, this would be my child, and you take that child with him into your marriage. You then create the duty to maintain that child.
Do you follow procedures, just while you're on that one, Tate Thulare, would you follow procedures to actually stamp and sign? Because there has to be some kind of evidence, irrespective of whether nontile borangwane na bomkhulu uthi mina lo mntwana ngiyamthatha ezoba what are the procedures of legitimizing it?
That family conference itself and its resolutions are enough.
Yes.
Remember, a document where you sign, it's proof of your commitment. It's not your commitment.
Right.
Commitment, you made it without signing. So the existence of a document will simply assist in proving that actually happened. But even in the absence of a document, if there is sufficient evidence before a court to say there was a family conference,
Yes.
the child did not have its parents either because the father's whereabouts are known or his identity is unknown, all right? And the mother is deceased, and you committed at the family conference to say, this is my child,
Yes.
I'm taking this child, then you attract the duty to maintain.
So you are basically, you could be held responsible for that commitment you made.
Exactly. The other foundation of customary practice,
Yes.
just linking it to it.
Yes.
If you get married to a woman who has a child not born of you, all right?
Yep.
And during lobola negotiations, the family informs you that this woman is not a maiden. She has a child born of another man. Remember, in terms of African practices, at that point you have to make an election.
Yep. Yes.
It's either you take that child into the marriage with you, or you leave the child to be raised as the child of that maternal household. If you say, I'm taking this child with me into my marriage, that's what the Sotho-speaking people are saying, we hapale naman.
Hey, give me.
If we hapilele naman, you attract the duty to maintain.
Thank you.
Because that's a customary practice.
Thank you.
If you don't want that duty, you indicate during the lobola negotiations, when you are appraised that there is a child, to say, no, I'm not taking responsibility. Just like in the case where you do an indigenous adoption,
Yes.
where you can say, no, I'm not taking, you are under no obligation. But once you commit, you
are being held
you
responsible.
must account for your commitments.
That's
The law does not create an obligation for you, remember. You create an obligation for yourself. What we do is simply to enforce the consequences of your choices.
That's right.
All right. And still now going up on our structure, ne? The left pillar would be the need for the maintenance of a child. All right. And the other one will be the means. So what I mean thereby is, and I have to say, there is a distinction in law between people who are children in law, which means those who are under 18, because in law they are children. And there is a distinction between them and people above the age of 18.
Yes, yes.
So for any person 18 and below, the need for maintenance is assumed. So when you come to court for the maintenance of a child, we assume as a point of departure that the child needs maintenance.
Yes.
But if you are above 18, you have to prove to the court that you have the need to be maintained.
Like Walwala.
Or you are in school.
You're
You
in
see,
school.
you have just finished your matric, you are pursuing tertiary education.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
In those instances, you may be able to discharge the obligation to prove that you actually need the maintenance before we even go to the extent of the need.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Let's welcome Ausintombi Bungai. She's the, as I said, she's the assistant director within the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, focusing on child maintenance. Welcome and thank you for giving your time, Ausintombi.
Evening, sir. Thank
Yes.
you. I'm very pleased to be here, even though
I understand you were caught up on the traffic.
yes, the
Yeah.
traffic coming from that side of town. It
Yeah.
just took
Elections,
forever.
elections,
Yeah,
elections.
but at least I'm here.
That's right. And back to our topic. Adv Thulare has articulated this quite very, very clearly, very simply, and it also touched on a bit on that cultural approach that we have. And what I picked up there, meaning once you have committed yourself, then the court will take that and actually hold you responsible for all those things that you just committed yourself into. So take it serious. Lefoko, halebowe, Ausintombi, let's talk a little bit about now that Adv Thulare has gave it to us like very clearly in terms of how maintenance gets to be approached. Now tell us about the act. Particularly, one of the biggest issues that we have is defaulting, is confusion when it comes to taking care of the kids. It's entertaining emotions. You find that, hey, tell us about the act that deals specifically with defaulters on this matter.
All right. Okay. Thank you. When we talk about maintenance defaulting, you have mentioned that there's an act that governs that particular aspect.
Yes.
Now, what happens is, in the event where there is a maintenance order and then you are not complying with that order, we'll be saying you are in default, obviously. And there's two different ways in which the courts deal with people who are defaulting in maintenance. You find the civil enforcement, you find the criminal enforcement. When it comes to the civil side of it, we have three methods that deals with that. The one is what we called an emolument attachment orders, and people would know them as garnish orders.
That's right.
What could happen is that an order can be made to say to an employer, this person has defaulted, he's owing this much in maintenance. So a court order is made to say, employer deduct this amount from his salary on a monthly basis to cover all the monies that he has not paid on the maintenance.
Yes.
Alternatively, there's also what we call attachment of dates. Let's say, for an example, there's a date that is being owed to the person who is responsible for paying maintenance by a third party. So the court can also be in a position to make an order to say the third party must then pay the maintenance to the maintenance beneficiary. For an example, the mother of the child. So the date that is owed to the person who is supposed to be paying maintenance would not necessarily then go to him. It will end up going to the maintenance beneficiary. In most instances, that would be the mother of the child, the person that takes care of the child. Alternatively, you also get what we call execution of property, the warrant of execution can be made to attach property. It's basically, it goes both ways to say immovable or movables. You will start by attaching things like radios, TVs, microwaves, fridges, and what have you. But if you find that it comes to the fact that the things that you have attached are not then enough to cover the debt that was being owed by the father, you will then go and attach immovable property if there's any. But it's also, of course, an order that is going to be made by the court to say this can be done. Alternatively, then, if like I have mentioned, that it's twofold. There's the civil side and there's the criminal side.
Yes.
As we all know, maybe people might be aware of the fact that not paying maintenance is a criminal offense. So you also get on the Act Section 31 that deals with the criminal offense of not paying maintenance, wherein if a person is then found guilty at the criminal court in that, he can be imprisoned for a period of 3 years. With the new Maintenance Amendment Act, it has now been made 3 years. So if you are found guilty of non-compliance, you can then be sentenced and imprisoned for a period of 3 years. It also goes further to say that in the event where you are actually found guilty, the court can also make it that your particulars are then given to credit bureau, for an example, to say this person is blacklisted. Because I mean, it happens if you default on paying your Edgar's accounts. So with maintenance as well, now it applies in the event where you are found guilty at the criminal courts for non-payment of maintenance, you can then be blacklisted.
All right. Thank you so much. Remember, if you've just tuned in, this is Let's Talk Justice. It's brought to you by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as Government Communication and Information System. And we are talking about maintenance tonight. Tonight, I'm having two guests, and Kenale Advocate Adv Daniel Thulare, who's the Chief Magistrate coming from Cape Town, as well as Ausintombi Zanele Vungai, who's the Assistant Director at the DOJ and CD. Okay, let's move on to our callers. And our first caller tonight is coming from Northwest. Hakitso Rekai Temba. Ritsulele ka Morena Temba. Oh, ke Tshepo ga se Temba. Mme go a tshwana ka seZulu Tshepo ke Temba ke. We are all South Africans and very diverse like that. Bua le nna Morena Tshepo. Ke re lebogile thata tlhe malo. Ba dumela le bona go a dumedisiwa ba gole.
Dumela Temba.
Dumela
ke Tshepo ne ko Temba.
Ke Tshepo wa ko Klerksdorp ba ke re malo. Sentle le tota.
So le mpotse ga ipeleng ka isa maraza fela potsa pele o kgona patela maintenance o dula le motsadi mo tlong o patela maintenance ngwana jala o dula mo tlong o kgona go patela maintenance o dula le motsadi le ngwana mo tlong.
Okay.
Potse engwe la tela gore a ke ka se le maintenance re kgona go patela re le ba video patela ngwana maintenance le gore se le ba video kgona go patela ngwana maintenance. Then you can make your parliament. Coco, how come the maintenance maintenance every month, but it's about 4 to 5 months till the motor on our toilet. I cannot maintenance. Maybe the high school as the villain, however, the banking tabon. So, the banking custody. Rather than for local court, about work with the number for it, narrating to every month.
Ke go utlwile Tshepo. All right, o tla utlwela mo Star FM a kgotsa mo Live FM. Ke lebogile morenaka. Thank you. And from the northwest in Klerksdorp, we're moving over to Lephalale in the west of Limpopo. Gona re bolela le William. William ra go tamish. Hello William.
Hey, le kae pa?
Re tswile malome le kae?
Re go.
Go tswalle se le moya mo.
All right, Eric.
O mpola di tsebe tle malome.
Sorry.
Thank you. A re bua ge.
Ke na le dipotšišo tše tharo fa.
Okay. Ga o ka dira di be di khutshwanenyana di be very short a ke re malome ka gore di tharo.
All right, a gona bothata fa
Thank you, Malo.
putswa ka mathomo e tsamaya ka tsela eng I just had a need a ke tsebe gore ke a need go ba ke maintenance rule e leng gona gore okay ngwana a dula ka ga gešo motho mongwe go ba dula ka ga bomsadi a sa dule le rena mara re dula bo botle ene nna le mosadi o re sa kwane ona wa khona ka la gore mosadi o antshe 50% ke go ke 50% na pile re she masheleng a febetse ebe ona a tlhokomela ngwana.
Okay.
La pile ya bobedi putisho ke gore go maintenance cost ge ba charge ba lebeletse serutu se ke se gotsang go bana ba charge bya and then ya mafelelo ke gore o e gapa le namane ge ke gapile le namane ka yona tsela e ntate wa ngwana a fela sa tla a tlo gopela gore no ke gopela go bona ngwana ke gopela sela le sela e le gore nna ga ke gopele anything gore no ntate o ga ke tsamanya ke nyaka go mokhatha o yena no fela ga peletša a maintaina na magato a ke yang ke maintenance cost ke a se gore ntate wa ka tlhela a le gona ka molapeng la ka because ngwana o ke monyetse le mmage ke mo adoptile go ra gore ke wa ka ke mo tlhokomela ka ntho e nngwe ya le magato a makaone ke a se a leng gore na maintenance cost ba ka ke ya go gaola ngwana o le tsaka wa gare ka gore ka ke le ba re ke gapile le nama
ya ntate
so se no ra gore ngwana ke wa ka ya le magato a makaone a tongo tšea ke maintenance cost ke a mafi a leng gore a tlo ba gona gore ba ntshireletse jele ka tate wa ngwana mara ke se biological father.
Ntate William ke lebogile gagolo ke tsona dipotso tsa gago ka moka kere aha re tla utlwella mo lephalale radio a kere ntate morenaka. Thank you so much for Lephalale radio station for beaming that to the audience in the west of Limpopo in Lephalale. And we're moving on from Limpopo right up to Eastern Cape, the home of the legends. Kinalin Tatelebo, Hozo Aliwal North. How are you doing? Oh, keep it and Tatuak. No problem.
Yeah, ya pele e re ka December mona Malitswai Aliwal North ka sa Kabi district le rena le interview le manager wa maintenance ablela hore the change system, the system has been changed but no wa ba sa ka hlola ba isa tšhelete tsa ba fumana tšhelete tsa bona ha magistrate ba ka tšhelete tsa bona di ka kengwa di accounting tsa bona before ba kwala ka December then, but I'm telling you up until now ba lata di tšhelete tsa bona money and batho ba complain about ba di fumane tšhelete tsa bona ka nako sometimes in ka bo 2 months pele ba fumana tšhelete tsa bona.
Right.
Then ya bobedi e ke Xhosa ntate.
Ke Xhosa tata masithethe.
Ngicela ukubuza abantwana bam utata wabo akasabondli wabagqibela ngo-2012 July ukuthumela kwamali leyo wathi akasasebenzi ukukhumbule ke ukuba yena wathi uyazisebenza uhlale eGauteng eyakhe into ithwani ke kuba akasafoleli nalo mnini ke ngoku uzithulele nje ithwani kiputso tsentepedi fela tsene ntate mtuthu.
Basically lo tata lo he has abandoned his kids.
Exactly.
All right.
2012 yeah.
Okay. Ndiyathemba uzayilalela ku Takalani Community Radio and
Takalani Community Radio ntate Msotho.
Morenaka. Aha. Thank you so much for all those calls. Ntate Thulare, re tshwere phage ka mangana. Kunzima sister.
Yeah.
Nakho, here are the questions. Maybe let's take them from number 7 up. That way.
Let me try to deal with them also in the course of what I was explaining.
Holistically.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Remember, we were building our structure and we were discussing the needs.
Yes.
And I was saying the need for a child, which is a person below 18, is assumed. What we do is just to get evidence to determine the extent of the need, to try to quantify that into an amount. The other leg, the other pillar of that house is the means. Yabon.
Yes.
So we look at the means of the person. The person who's liable to pay must have the means to pay. In the absence of the means, there is no duty. Just like in the absence of the need, there is no duty.
But
So-
now
so-
he's
so,
claiming
yes.
just a little
Yes.
bit while you add that one.
Yes,
He is saying he's not working.
yes,
But when they get to find out, he owns a business.
yes.
So now, would that also be taken the same as not working simply because you're not having like some regular salary that comes into your account every month?
I don't think our millionaires in the country are employed. They are in business. So what we look at is not employment. It's whether you have the means. So if like in this instance where the usisi complained about utata wacibela ukumaintaina ngo-2012, there is a duty on her to approach the nearest maintenance court. Because lapha kwa-maintenance court, we have what we call maintenance investigators.
Yes.
They will go into, we are able to go into systems. Yabon. We are able to go into things like the deeds registry to see ukuthi which properties have been registered in whose name. We are able even to follow, sometimes even if you register your property in your mother's name, sizawufika kumama simbuza ukuthi imali yokuthenga imansion uyithola kuphi.
Thank you.
Uzosho ukuthi imali kamntwanami nguyo owakhe lendlu, and we know ukuthi that property, although on paper it appears as your property, it's actually not your property. So we'll follow the trail. We'll go into Inatis. We'll find ukuthi there are vehicles registered. Even if you try to hide them, we'll search and find them. We'll go into your bank accounts. We'll investigate.
Yes.
So ultimately, when we reach a conclusion, Yoba, a person does not have the means, it means we have exhausted every internal process that is available to determine whether that person actually does not have the means.
Yes.
If you take chances, we'll expose you. Yabon. And then we go on to the question of the roof now. Ne?
Yes.
Let triangle, the first line, which forms the basis here, triangle, it is also the line a completer the rectangle at the bottom. Ne?
Yes, yes.
That line refers to joint liability, and it relates to the first caller's question. Both parents must make a contribution. Yabon.
And it has to be
Abazali by
clear.
two.
It has to be very clear.
It is unequivocal. If the matter is brought to court, it is very clear, because umama has got to give evidence yokuba mina njengomama, these are my means, these are the children, this is how far my means can take in maintaining the children, and this is the deficit that I'm having.
Yes.
And I need the father to come in.
All
So
right.
so a contribution yaga mama, just like that of the father, is also being investigated. What I want to pin, and it goes on to the second caller's first question.
Yes.
In maintenance, we don't go for 50-50. Yabona le roof. That's why it is a triangle. The bottom is joint liability. The other line, it's equality. And equality in law is not similarity.
That's
Make no
right.
mistake.
That's right.
If me no my sister Lana, we go to the bathroom, just as an example. Yabon. In the bathroom, Mina, I expect to find a urinal because I can do it standing in a 4-5. Yena, she expects to find a sanitation tank.
That's right.
In case it's that time of the month. Yabon. So, and I'm trying to drive the point home to say equality, it's treatment that takes into consideration your particular circumstances. So we do an equal contribution, which means your means are taken together into account, but we proportionate them. Each contributes in proportion to his or her means. Not equal, not similar, but equal.
Yes.
Yeah, but which means if I earn 1,000 rands and she earns 10,000 rands, and we determine the needs of the children to be around 60 rands, I may be expected to only contribute 20 rands and she contributes 40 rands.
That's right.
It doesn't have to do with whether you are a man or a woman. It depends on the extent of your
On the means.
Yeah.
All right. And Adv Thulare, without any further ado, let me just go on to a short commercial break. And then, Mentombi, I would really like us to discuss the procedural issues. Like the one that in the Jokkavik district, there's change of a system. And also, how do you come to that decision? And there's a stepfathering thing in there as well.
Okay.
And then also, the sharing maintenance that Thulare has very well articulated it, and I believe let's go for a break.
My son, the day you were born was the happiest moment of my life. From the first smile, I knew that you were my purpose. Your future is my responsibility.
Thank you so much. Yo, I
and it is
like
my duty
when
to give you the best chance to succeed.
A lot
in
of
life.
people,
I've
they
always
actually
pushed you to
did
play
ask that
sports
we
because
repeat
I
this topic
believe it is a
because
life lesson. Now in school,
you know,
it fills me with pride to see
an entertainment of personality. Yeah.
But I saw you once.
my
There
son.
was this
Remember, a man has compassion when he not only cares for others, but shows it by putting their best interest ahead of his own.
Okay, stand by.
A man has courage when he does what is right, even when it's difficult. In concluding, I want to tell you, I love you, my son. Go, chase your dreams and never let anyone tell you that you can't achieve what you set your mind to. But always take responsibility for who you are. Find your passion, keep searching, and never stop. Sincerely, your father.
The shape of your child's destiny is determined by your actions today. Remember, your child's future is your priority. Do the right thing, pay child maintenance, and lead by example. For more information, call 012-315-1111 or visit www.justice.gov.za.
It is 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is Let's Talk Justice. My name is Mosotho Stone, and we are coming to you live from Pretoria. Ausintomi, before we answer that one, let me just pass through. They've been waiting for quite some time now. Let's go to Kutalani, Ukobua Venda. Yenda.
Inda.
Bovwan.
Nda lokowela.
Oh, that's good. Oreni muziso wako?
Ndiko riwa ngamanda wandekona dwala na muti. My name is Kutarani. But you can call Casey.
Casey.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
from the University of Venda here in Wrighton, Limpopo. I have two questions for the speakers tonight, and thank you very much to Advocate Daniel Thulare and Adv Daniel because they are answering of questions and the information is really informative. Question number one is, what happens in a scenario where if I am married to my wife and I've got a child outside my marriage, but I am not working and my wife is the one that is working? Legally, is she bound to pay maintenance for my child? Maybe looking at the cases of whether we're married in community of property or out of community of property. And maybe the second question would be, then until what age are you supposed to maintain your child? For example, let's say you have a 16-year-old daughter and that daughter also has a baby at 16. Are you still supposed to maintain the child going forward? Or once the person has another child, now you can say, okay, you can stop the maintenance. So there's just an age of what basically happens in between. I think basically those are two of the questions that I have this evening.
Casey, ndikodi buangaman. All right, and we're moving forward to Cape Town. That's Adv Thulare's turf. We have Lunga. Molo Lunga. Hey, ukutheni ngolunga? Okay, we're moving on. Mararanka go tswa ko Appington. Morenaka.
Nela Mosotho Stone.
Le kae kgosi yaka?
Re tele kae morena?
Nka bo utlwile tlherawe.
Le rona re gone ke ne ke batla ke na le potso le ngwa fela ke batlang go e botsa ke batla go botsa gore fa motho ke re ke o na le ngwana yo le mosadi and then ga mo nyala ba nna le ngwana ba direla ngwana morago ga mo a ba sa tlhole a dira tiro e be fela sa tlhole a na le mashileng fa sena mashileng yana mme a direketse ngwana mo diretse sengwe le sengwe e le fela gore o na sa ntshetsa ngwana magadi and then mosadi wa ba nyalwa ke monna o mongwe monna o le ba itlhamo tsaka ngwana ba ntshetsa ngwana magadi a ba mo nyala in community of properties jaanong fa re o le ba tla ngwana gagwe e dina gore yo le o tso go motsa semolao ke se se dirwang gore re o le a boelo ke ngwana gagwe ga ke tsora ke a tlhaloganya fela
E tlhaloganyegisile sentle le tota rra ebile re tle go e tsa le ele ya gore stepfathering ke yona kgang e re neng tse re bua ka yone o tla utlwella mo Riverside Community Radio go tswa Appington a ke re malo
ke lebogile
ke lebogile rra. Thank you so much to our callers. It's now 17 minutes before 7 o'clock. Osintombi,
Yes, sir.
I would like us to leave this stepfathering one for Adv Thulare, but I would like us to speak on the issues of systems now.
Okay.
Yes. Please speak to us about the change of systems. Do you know anything about that? Is it a legitimate change?
Okay.
And why are they still not getting their
Okay.
what's due to them?
Okay, what is happening in that instance now? We at the Department of Justice, we always trying to find ways to improve the maintenance system. And he had mentioned the caller that was calling from Alwal North. He spoke something about having a meeting with a manager and they were told about changes in the system and what have you. What is happening is that currently there was maintenance that is being payable to the maintenance beneficiaries. It will happen, as I had mentioned earlier on, with regards to Ganishi orders as well. Money will be deducted from the employers. It will pay it into the court's account, and then from the court's bank account, it goes to the beneficiaries. So it was always a long process wherein sometimes there'll be delays because the money comes from this person to the court. Then it has to be processed for days to go into the accounts of the beneficiaries. Now what happens is there's a method that has been introduced. It's the new method called direct payment. With that method, what happens is if the money is deducted straight from the employer, it has to go straight into the account of the beneficiary, cutting out the middleman, which is the court. So it won't have to go through the court. Even with the payments that were done by the respondents, the people who were paying maintenance, they would normally pay the maintenance also into the court's bank account. From there, it is paid to the beneficiaries.
Yes.
But now what happens is that if you have an order that says pay maintenance, they can be converted to say you don't pay it into the court's bank account anymore. You will just pay it straight into the beneficiary's bank account. So that is what has been happening. And everything is always work in progress. Whenever there's a new system that is being introduced, it takes time to run smoothly. So that is what has been happening with regards to that direct payment. And what I would also like to put out there is the fact that if there are any problems that have been experienced and there's people who have complaints, they can also contact me, because in my capacity as an assistant director, I'm also sitting at the national office as the maintenance complaints manager. So if there's any problems that they might have, they can send me emails, they can also call me. I will also through you forward my details so
Most
that
definitely.
if there's particular problems that they want to have looked at, they can contact me, then we will work on those, because sometimes it's not a general problem, there's just particular people who have those problems, so they can just also contact me, then we can have a look at those.
Thank you so much. We got a connection. We have a connection at the DOJ. That's Osintombi. She works with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. She's the assistant director. She works directly with maintenance issues. So if you have those kind of problems with in terms of procedures, in terms of systems and all those, she will be able to we will actually share the number at the end of the show. That advocate, let's talk about this one. So far now, it has a three-pronged kind of approach here.
Yeah.
Now, there is the community of property. Does it involve kids? Because kids are not assets, in my understanding. And then the stepfathering thing, where he says here that he has been taking care of the kid. Now, he lost his job. And he couldn't for about 2-3 years. Now, during that 3 years, things happened. The lady wavuma with somebody else, bashada. And now the guy decided that, no, I will take care of the kid. And as you said, now here is the situation where he wants to come back. But now he's not sure of the approach and the procedure to follow for him to take back his responsibility for the child. What happens?
Yeah, you see, the unfortunate reality is that generally many issues that have got technically nothing to do with maintenance comes to the fore at the maintenance court. You see, because let me start by saying, referring to caller number 2, that we had to deal with, the relationship between the biological father of a child in a situation where the person, another man, takes into marriage his child and the mother of that child. that relationship is not governed by the Maintenance Act. There are two possible acts that can regulate that. The one is in terms of what law are they married. It also speaks to the question raised by the caller from the former vendor.
Yes.
You see, to say, how are you married? Because and what happened during your marriage? If it is a customary marriage, what was discussed during the discussions? And if the question of the role of the biological father was ever touched, what was it? If there was any communication and participation of the biological father of the child who was to be taken into a marriage with a different man other than its father, what have the parties agreed on? When you arrive at the magistrate's court, you don't ask for the clerk for maintenance. You ask for the clerk of the children's court.
Yes.
Are you following?
Yes.
Because that question, who has got access to the child, the rights of contact, how the child is being brought up, is not a question that resorts under the Maintenance Act. It is dealt with in terms of the Children's Act. So any question by anybody in the Republic that relates to contact, relationship, I hear sometimes when you do these kinds of shows, men saying, but I'm expected to pay maintenance, but when I want to visit the child, they refuse me contact, or they refuse that the child visit me. It's not for you to take, to be angry at it and whatever. What you need to do is to go to the children's court of the court where that child resides. So if the child resides at the grandmother's house, the court that services that area, that's the children's court where you approach. And when you arrive there, you discuss with the clerk of the court to say, my problem relates to my relationship with my child, and you'll get assistance. The other thing relates to, as I say, how are you married? If it is in community of property, and referring from the question from up the Limpopo, if you are married, was it in community of property? If it was in community of property, didn't it include what we call the accrual system? In other words, do you have a joint estate that you are sharing? You see, because from your share of that joint estate, that is the part that carries the liability to maintain. The woman that you have married, unless she has committed herself through marriage or otherwise to maintain, she ordinarily does not have any obligation to maintain your child. Just like a man that you marry, unless he commit himself otherwise, either through customary practices or through an adoption, the fact that you are married to him does not rise or found the duty on him to maintain the child who's not his child.
That's right. Now, how much does the paternal or maternal grandparents, how much power do they wield in terms of, because in most cases when these things happen, Ronarle African people, the first thing when we have problems, we will go to our parents.
Yes.
And then they start saying, no, bring the kids here. You guys are fighting. So bring the kids here, we'll take care of them. Then later on, there is this thing of having to feel like you are being powerless because there's these grandparents who actually are taking care of everything now. Let's say, like, for instance, you are working. Yeah. You are travelers, you go all over the place. Now, and then when you're supposed to be making decisions on some of the things when it comes to taking care of them, you find that it becomes a bit difficult because Ntatemogolo will be like, so how much power do they actually have to wield around the situation where the kids have to be taken care of by the parents?
Look, the parents of the child generally are the ones who make the determination in relation to the upbringing of that child. Remember, with grandparents, there are a number of issues. I can give you just one example. I worked in a district, I won't mention it. In one area which I serviced of that district, young men were being refused access to their children. Biological fathers. And the grandmothers did not find anything wrong, and their reason was, lo mfana lo unqonqotha ngomuno uyabona lo uTshepo unqonqotha ngomuno ulunga yena angithi ufika aphethe ama plastic unqonqotha ngenyawo uyabona. So that on for them look, they're acting in the best interest according to them.
Yes.
Or in the best interest of their daughter to be married or to have a relationship with somebody who take care of her and her children. And perhaps they, according to them, their perception is they're acting in the best interest of that child in making sure that the person who's going to father that child is a person who's got the means.
Yes.
Yes. That is why grandparents do not have a final say around who has got the right of contact. The presiding officer of the children's court in the district where the child resides has got a final say. So if a father is not happy because they are being refused entry or access to the child because akasebenzi or unqonqotha ngomuntu makaye court, he must come to court.
0800 142 446. It's a toll-free number if you're using your landline, your Telkom landline, that is. But otherwise, there is Shanine, who will be very happy to call you back, actually, if you're using your cell phone. And thanks to my production team, Shanine Madu, as well as Linda Mazibuko, who's on the controls. Okay, I understand Lunga is back. Tatu Lunga. Hello, Lunga.
Hello, Buti.
Hey, ninjani tat?
Ngithilile manje.
Hey, besengisho nithi ubalekile futhi.
Hayi, ngibese ngisithi nami ngokanisangithole nani.
Yeah.
Mamela ke tata ngidile toko ungibethile utata waphendula kakuhle tata Daniel.
Utata advocate, yes.
Ya kuba ke bengifuna ukungena kanye apha kumcimbi wabantwana ufumaniswa ngenixesha unotata ababini kuba ke ndizawuthi kulani bana omnye utata lona uye wavumela ukumaintaina hence ke ngoku eye wangena la kwi-commitment lena ye-marriage. But now i-reality yase-South Africa ngenye ixesha ufumanisa ukuthi akubikho abantu abatshatileyo ngokwenza ke mhlawumbi customary ngokohlobo athetha ngalo utata ngenye ixesha ufumanisa abantu bayahlalisana. Okanye ke lento ngokwe-English lango.
Are you referring to fat and set?
Yaqonda ba-fat and set.
Aha, okay.
Now wena tata kubekho lo tata uzabe ekuloyo fat and set abe kunomntwana ecaleni. Lona utata umntwana naye abe efuna ukungenelela ngokwe-maintenance. Ndifuna ukuva ukuthi yenze kanjani. Bese ndimvile ubaba uyabetha kakhulu wacacisa mari manje uthethe kakhulu ngomuntu otshatile. Right. Ndifuna ke ngokwenye icala ndifuna ukwazi ukuthi kunale ndima yokuthi ngenye ixesha kukho laa nto ubana umntwana abaye mhlawumbi ufumanisa uba baye bamithisana besebancinci bona then abakhule ke ngokumntwana lona ufumanisa into okokubana kweli cala lomama bayakwazi ukumaintaina ke ngawuthi ke mhlawumbi umakhulu notamkhulu umntwana because ke they were very young bona the actual parents. Now kwenzekani whenever they want mhlawumbi into okokubana ke kuba kuyakhulwa ke sometimes manje the situations ziyatshintsha. How do they approach ke ngoku laa tata lowa umncinci usesesikolweni? Because it find ukuthi abanye otata basesesikolweni and how are they going to do in the maintenance? Ndawumamela kwi-radio Helderberg eCape Town.
Thank you so much to Radio Helderberg in Somerset West. We're moving on to Lydia from the Northwest. How's Lydia? Re teng le kae me? Ka mohau mme.
Amen.
Ke kgale re sa bue. Ke a leboga mme. A ko re thwa ka pelenyana.
Because honestly, our marriages are not based on the word of God. Hence, in a customary way, like our religion. Then at the end of the day, we make a mess. Then because of justification, we run a run. Because there is so many different kinds of marriage. That is why because many of us.
Aus Lydia, are you reka pelenyana? Ke re o bona nako re tlo re. Ka pelenyana fela tlheme.
The only thing is the problem is we do things like that. So instead we see many marriages or so you see so many divorces, killing each other, whatever. Because the whole nation needs to be born up again. These things are so very because Department of Justice, we need the whole nation to be born again. For all these things, they must finish because this thing is Africa, in property or not in property. That is against God. So we are doing things that are against God, and we are facing so many difficulties because we follow that about this topic. Why is it?
Okay, Oslydia, a go tshwara pele bikinyana for
ke lebeletse nako akere
re lebeletse
but
nako.
ke ne ke batla re fela ha ke batla o tsosa debate la Oslydia ke batla ho mo lemosa fela hore ha o bala ko Genesis 24 Abraham o nyaditse Isaac ka tsela ya Maafrika ba nyadisana the same way o ipena ko ya go
We utlwile Oslydia.
but let's not go into that. Let's go back to the topic. Wow.
All right, but Oslydia ke tlo khaola jaanong ka hore ke na lo wa bofelo tshontswe ke bue mari think about what Adv Thulare is saying because he's referring to the Bible as well. And then let's move quickly to Lipalale. Zakes.
Hello.
Le kae Ntate Zakes?
Rona le kae?
Re gona.
Mosotho Stone.
Re teng morenaka. Ke kopa go fa fela motsotso tlhendadi.
Ya aya na bothata ke tlo ditšha petition ya fela e nyane ne. Re Mosotho Stone. Petition ya ka ke ntate ka.
Ntate.
O nyetse mosadi ke motho. O nna le yena ka mo lapeng. Wata to the attention ya hore no wa tswa re o na le bana somehow outside. Then abale that call ya hore no bana bao oba ngwana o ha tse nne le yena ka hae. Okay, abulela le mmae ngwana ra motšea re dula le yena ka hae. More than 5 years ne. And after that we approach and that to approach me hore nne ke na re ngwana o ke khale ke dula le yena. How come o ka mo le samara ka change sefane ya bata ba rubitse ka sefane se ke leng ka ro sona.
Okay.
Then wa go tse lo re maybe ka mo mme go ba bothatanyana ra o fe that call e ka ba tsela ye nngwe e motho ka e dirang go no ntwe e the to the thinking ra ngwana o ditse ka sefane sa ka o ka dirana
ke yona ye wa ke re Ntate Zakes.
ke putisho e ke rata mo
Morenaka ke tshepa gore o mametse Lephalale, one of the quality radio stations in Limpopo. Morenaka. Thank you. And Adv Thulare, we left with 5 minutes, and I'm hoping between when Alo Sintomi you'll be able to share what came through.
Important.
Okay.
Ke re mo go ntate o kere question ya hae ya Ntate Zakes go Lephalale. It's also one of the questions tse re tla di referang outside the Maintenance Act.
Yes.
Because registration ya ngwana is dealt with in terms of the Registrations and Deaths Act. It is an act that is administered by the Department of Home Affairs.
Yes.
So o tshwanetse o bua le mme ha ba sa dumelane ho tshwana le hore ha le dumelane ka mabitso a ngwana or ha le dumelane ka hore ngwana o nna ko kae, all those things.
Yes.
Le ya ko children's court.
That's right.
But your starting point ha le dumelana ke Home Affairs. Ho ya o change mabitso a bana le everything hore ngwana o nna kae, all those things le ka dumelana ka tsona ha le sa dumelana la children's court. I think Lunga raised one of the most important things that we need to chat on.
Yes.
And those are fathers of children who are born out of wedlock. I would encourage South Africans to sometimes, you just Google, ne?
Yes.
Most of us can even Google from our
Google
phone.
Google
Section 21 of the Children's Act. Children's Act is Act 35 of 2008.
Yes.
So just put in Section 21, Act 35 of 2008.
South Africa.
Yes, South Africa. Yes. Then you click. Then isa to the specific isom letter to the specific provision that deals with how unmarried fathers, the relationship between them and their children and how they are dealt with by the courts. Yes. Firstly, we look at certain things. What has been your conduct since the child was born to the date lemeta before court in relation to that child? Have you been present as a father?
Yes.
Or have you been alive in the life of the child? Because there's a difference between a present father and a father who's alive in the life of the child.
That's right.
If you are alive, you would know about you'd know you'd know there are school necessities and all of those.
That's right.
Even if you are not working or you are self-employed and you are not generating sufficient income, the little that you are doing, if you are sharing with your child, you'll have your rights and responsibilities entrenched by the courts. The challenge is and then suddenly you come up and then you want to participate in the life of the child.
Because
then it causes us to delay. Yeah, it causes us to delay because we have to involve social development to start first building up a relationship before we can give you any rights that you claim. But we'll enforce your responsibilities.
Most definitely. Ausintombi, giving you a chance to actually speak to some of the issues that were raised here.
Yes, sir. Actually, there's one question that I wanted to touch on because it always comes out every time. Like right now, we were busy fixing the frequently asked maintenance pamphlet.
Yes.
There's this question that people would always ask, until what age is maintenance payable?
Yes. It actually came out. Yes.
Yeah, so we just want them to know that maintenance I pay, it doesn't end. As long as the child still needs maintenance and they can prove to the court that they still need maintenance, even though it is said that at the age of 18 a child is a major, they can take care of themselves, then maintenance is not supposed to be paid. But if the child is still at school and there's proof that the child still needs maintenance, the child can be still 25 as long as there's need for maintenance and it can be proved, then the parents will still have to maintain the child. And one more thing, there's a lot that we can talk about maintenance. We can actually spend the whole day sitting here talking about maintenance. So I understand that we're running out of time and lots of things are not going to be able to be answered. And I'm sure there's still callers that would like to ask so many questions. So what I would suggest is that you are in position of the list of the maintenance complaints managers. Around the 9 provinces, we've got maintenance complaints managers situated in each and every single regional office. So on the list that you have in front of you as well, there's their contact details, their email addresses. So if it can just be circulated to the general public so that they can know that whenever you have issues with maintenance in all the different courts around South Africa, you have people to contact in order to take those matters up with. Because sometimes you'll have issues at the court and you can't really go and complain to the people that you are having problems with. So in order for you to be assisted, you can then contact the regional office of that particular province. If that fails as well, we are there at the national office as well. So if they can just get all the contact details for all the maintenance complaints managers around the regions.
And I always say one thing to everyone. Phones are smart these days. Sometimes they're even smarter than the owners. So make sure you get to be smarter than your phone. And once Ausintombi is talking about your www.doj.gov.za, you know exactly where to go. You get all the information over there. And are you contactable, Adv Thulare?
Yes.
Can you share where you are contactable so that people maybe, if they want to, they will, of course, go through the Department of Justice to get to you. But where you are contactable, where it's possible for people who are Zibonele radio listeners as well as Bush radio listeners, Tigerberg in Western Cape, in Cape Town, are they able to come and maybe consult at some point?
Look, I'm based at the magistrate's office in Cape Town itself.
Yes.
People in the Western Cape would know where Cape Town is.
Yes.
And would know where the magistrate court is.
That's right.
I'm the chief at that office. I'm also responsible for a cluster, which means a number of offices in the Western Cape, more so towards the West Coast and Boland.
That's right.
Reports to my office. So you pop in there. If I have the time and I'm available, I'll talk to you. And if you're unfortunate on a date like today, I'm in Pretoria, and you walk in there without first calling my secretary, that's the danger. You may not find.
Yes.
You may find. But there are colleagues that work specifically in the maintenance courts. People who are in Cape Town especially know where our family courts.
That is exactly what I would like to say. Adv Thulare is here to represent. But if you don't find him by the office, there are colleagues. And please ask for help.
Go to your nearest magistrate's court.
Most definitely.
Yes.
All right. Ausintombi, give us the contacts where you are contactable quickly. I know some of the radio stations are going to kill me for just stretching time a little bit like this. Yeah.
Okay. The email address is N for Nelly, V for Valerie, U for Anda, N for Nelly, G for girl, A Apple, Y for yellow, I for India at justice.gov.za. And then the landline number is 012-315-4737.
And if you want to contact the office, the maintenance office contacts are also on the Facebook page of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. So go on to the... Everybody's got a Facebook these days. Everybody's got Twitter. Hey, don't let your phone be smarter than you are. I say it again. 8 minutes past 7 o'clock. Thank you so much to my wonderful guest, and Adv Daniel Thulare is the Chief Magistrate in the Cape Town office, as well as Ausintobizanele Vungai, who's coming from who's coming from the Child Maintenance Office from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Thank you so very much for gracing us with your
Thank you.
presence.
All the best to all South Africans.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And that's it. That's it. Linda, what you doing to me? Are you gagging me, my brother? Are you gagging me? All right. Thank you so much. And it's a good night. Liperil.